here I am looking at Audacity. I've downloaded it and set it up, and what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to show you first of all how I would record myself. So it's worth getting some time, get yourself familiar with the Audacity interface. And it looks a bit strange at first, but I'm going to talk you through a couple of the key things that you need to know. So the first thing is this menu here, these menus here, where we've got core, built-in mic, and HDMI. You can see a few things just across here. These are my source selection panels, okay? So at the moment, it's going to record with my built-in microphone. If I plug another microphone in here, if I plug a USB microphone in here, then it will appear in this list. So the first thing to do is select the microphone that you want to use. This one over here is when the sound plays back. So when I play something on Audacity, where does that sound go? Now normally you would choose the built-in output. If you're listening through your speakers or headphones that you've got plugged into your computer, you're going to choose the built-in output. I'm routing it through the HDMI because I'm recording this session so that you can watch back my video. So my settings are different, but normally you'd have this probably in the built-in output, certainly when you're starting off. This one in the middle here, between the two, is, well, do you want a mono track or do you want a stereo track? Now you'll know the difference between mono and stereo. A mono channel is going to take up less space, and if it's just you speaking, then a mono channel is going to work just fine. You don't need any more than a mono channel if it's just you speaking. However, you can't in your session, you can't mix a mono track with a stereo track. So for example, if I record myself speaking and that's a mono track, if I then bring in a stereo track for example some recorded music, which may well be in stereo already, I can't mix them both. I can't have one mono and one stereo in the same session. I would need to convert either the stereo track down to a mono track, or the mono one would have to become a stereo track. It's easy to do, but you would need to do that. For the purposes of this quick exercise, I'm just going to work with a mono track. So this button up here, this is like your playback controls, okay? So down here, this is sources, inputs and outputs, and how many tracks do we need? And up here are our playback controls. Here's pause, here's play, here's stop, here's skip to the beginning, here's skip to the end, here's record, okay? We're going to record. Now, when I'm recording, over here, these are my volume controls. This is the volume of my microphone in, my recording volume, and this is the volume of my playback out. Now, depending on how your USB microphone is set up, you might need to have your output down. Normally what I do with the USB microphone is I plug my headphones into my USB mic so I can hear myself, and I turn the output volume down on Audacity, otherwise I'm going to get myself howling back at me. So I've got my input up, I've got my output down, and I'm going to start recording myself. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count from 1 to 10, but I'm going to cough in between each number, and then we're going to edit out the coughs, and this is how you're going to start practicing editing. So you do this yourself and see how you get on, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got a sore throat now, but what we have here on the graph, as you can see, is me counting from 1 to 10 with a cough in between each one. You can see at the end here, I continued recording for a few seconds before I pressed stop. So there's a flat line. We know that there's some empty space, okay? The other thing you'll see is that because now my output is turned down, you're not hearing this even though I'm playing it back. So I'm going to turn my output up. Now we can hear what we're doing on Audacity. 10. Okay? And straight away you can see, well, I don't want that bit because that's some blank space at the end. So what we do when we edit with Audacity is we highlight the bits we want to work with. The bits of the track that we want to do something to. Okay? So this bit, this section here, I want to delete. So first of all, I need to highlight it. So I highlight it just by dragging the mouse. Click with the mouse, hold it down, and drag it over to the left, because I'm going backwards, and then hit backspace, delete, okay? I could also hit this key up here, which is the scissors, which is cut, okay? There's also a menu up the top, up here. I could go to edit and cut, all right? So I'm now hovering my mouse around, and wherever I click and press spacebar, it will play from that location. So if I want to go back here to about the 8-second mark, just hover my mouse, click, and then hit space. 5. And it plays from there. So let's delete that cough, okay? I've made my cursor selection. I've checked it. That's definitely a cough. I check it by playing the spacebar. Now I click my mouse, I hold my mouse down, left click my mouse, but I drag to the right because I'm going forwards on the timeline. That's the bit I want to work with. You'll see that it's now highlighted. I hit backspace, it goes. Where am I now? This should be the start of a number. 5. There it is. Now we can see we're going into a cough, but because I haven't moved the cursor, 5. It always goes back 5 to where I last clicked that line, okay? 5. 6. 5. Okay, so to move the cursor, I need to move over, click. There's my cough. Again, I drag to the right. Let me just show you me doing it now with the scissors. It's gone. Okay? And I could go through the rest of the timeline, and this is what I'd like you to do, and take out all the coughs. And if we pay attention to our waveform, which is what this is called, this is the sound wave, the waveform, we know that there's a cough in between every number, don't we? So actually, there's bits of this. 7. I don't need to listen to. I know that this bit's a cough. Okay? I know that that's a number. Therefore, I know this bit must be a cough. Let me play the spacebar just to check. Of course it is. Okay, let me just show you. Again, I can go up to the edit menu. I can click cut. Okay, so this will be a number. 9. And let's take this out, and we'll just hit backspace to get rid of this. There are also keyboard shortcut keys as well as you do more of this. I'm going to use my skip to the start button, the home button sometimes call this. Let's go back to the start, see if there's any coughs that I missed, because I kind of jumped about a wee bit there. 1. 2. Okay, let's take these out then. And what I'm looking for is to try and make sure that there's a nice consistent gap between each number. So if I do this, if I do it like this, right? What's happened is I've taken out the cough. I'm also taking out the end of the 1 and the start of the 2 because I'm too broad with my selection there. So if I delete that and then play it, let's see what that sounds like. 1, 2. Oh, I've done it wrong. Okay, I've cropped it far too tight. Because this is digital editing, I can go to my edit menu and I can simply undo delete. And it puts it back exactly as it was. Now I can do it correctly. The nice thing about undo delete is I can keep doing it. It doesn't just do the most recent correction, it will do them all the way back to the beginning of the project. Okay, and I can redo them as well. Actually, I did want to make that cut. I do want to redo that delete. And so now we're back to this bit between the number 1 and the 2. So depending on if you're editing someone in your podcast and they speak very fast, their words will all be crammed together. And it's quite difficult to make, quite precise edits unless we zoom in. So across the screen at the moment, we're seeing the whole 13-second recording. I can zoom in on that by using here the plus and minus keys. And again, there's shortcuts for that. So now, what we've got on the screen here, the whole screen, this is 2.5 seconds. So here's the gap. 1. Between the 1 and the 2. And you'll see I can see there the very end of my number 1 into my cough, out of my cough, and I'll delete that. Okay, so now, and again then I can return back to a more normal view. 1, 2. And what we're looking for is something fairly nice and consistent. Okay, 1, 2. So the numbers should all be at the same spacing between the numbers. That's really what you're looking to get. And you can do a really good job of that just by zooming in and do these nice, fine, accurate edits. So let's play it through now. This should go from 1 to 10, hopefully without any coughing.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, there's a cough. Can't have that. Let's take that out.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, you heard here.
7.
Hear that little and a kind of annoying little habit sometimes when I'm speaking. So when you're working with a podcast, you'll notice when you start to edit it, you'll notice that maybe people say or they'll go at the start of a word. There's these little noises sometimes that we've got the option of taking them out. And you can actually see it on the graph.
7.
Right? It's that bit there. So if I want, I can zoom in and I can do quite a precise edit on that and take that noise out and clean it up. And what you need to consider is, with your podcast, how much of this are you prepared to do? Are you going to go through it and take out every and and every little noise, or will you not bother? And if you do it too much, it starts to feel a bit false, because when we speak, we do sometimes stutter and stammer and make these noises, and it's a natural way of speaking. There's nothing wrong with it. It's only a problem if it becomes, glaringly obvious and somebody's doing it a lot. So let's find that 7, wasn't it?
7.
Okay, it should sound a bit cleaner now than it did before.
6, 7, 8.
You don't hear that little noise.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so that's counting 1 to 10, coughing in between each one, editing out the gaps, the coughs, the bits that you don't want. Let's be a wee bit more sophisticated now. Let's take something out the middle and move it to the start.
5.
So let's take number 5, and I'd like you to do this as well. Take number 5, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it between the 2 and the 3. Okay, so I've copied my number 5. I'm now moving and use the home tool to go back to the start. And we want this in between the 2 and the 3, which I guess is going to be in here, but let's just check.
3, 4.
Okay, that's fine. So we've selected it, and then again, edit and paste. And you can see on a Mac, Command V would be my shortcut. I could also come over here and use my cut, copy, and paste tool. So a lot of the Audacity controls, it's the same thing again and again and again. People say, why has it got so much? This looks like a difficult interface. Well, it's not. It's just trying to give you different options. How would you like to work? How do you want to lay out your screen? And what would you rather click? What you're going to be doing a lot of. If I was making loads of cuts, it's probably going to be easier with the shortcut key. Anyway, I'm just going to edit and paste. So I copied the number 5, I paste it in between the 2 and the 3, and I can play to check.
2, 5, 3, 4.
Obviously, I've still got my original number 5 because I just copied it, I didn't delete it.
5.
So I can delete that now. Again, highlight it. That's the bit I'm going to work with. I highlight it, and once I'm happy with it, I can even play
5.
the bit I've highlighted.
5.
Okay, to make sure
5.
that I'm happy, and then delete. And so when you're making a podcast, if you maybe want, some of your best bits, you might want them in at the start. You might want to move stuff around a little bit. And that's really all you're doing, is highlighting, then going to copy, then deciding where you want to put it, and then remember to take it out from that original area. A few other things that we can do with Audacity. Like I say, it's quite a basic entry-level free audio editing software, but it's used for some quite complex projects. It can do some quite useful things. Let's just do something. Let me just record a little bit, and I'll make this really quiet, okay? Maybe if I'm way back here and I'm quite quiet and I'm quite far away from the microphone. Okay, so you can see here on my recording, and this might happen to you with a podcast if you're speaking to 2 people. One of them's quite close to the microphone, and they've got quite a big boomy voice, and the other person's that bit further away. So I've got a variation here in the levels. So one of the things that Audacity can do is, again, I want to work with this quiet area. I'm highlighting it. I come up to my effect, and I'm going to amplify. And then it asks me, how much would you like to amplify it by? And I can slide this up or down. So let's bring it up by maybe about 3.5 decibels. And you'll see it boosts it. It makes it much louder. Maybe if I'm way back here and I'm quite quiet and I'm quite far away from the microphone. Now, the problem with amplifying using Audacity or any audio editor like this is that it amplifies everything. So because I was far back from the mic, and if there's a air conditioning fan in this room or there's background noise, when you amplify it, yeah, you can hear me better.
Maybe if I'm way back here and I'm quite quiet and I'm quite far away from the microphone.
But you get that hiss on it as well. I've made everything louder. So it hasn't really been a huge help, because what I want to hear me clearly, but not the hiss. So what you might do in that situation, if that happens to you, is you would use a tool which is called, let me find it, noise reduction. What noise reduction does is it removes a particular frequency. So everything above or below a particular frequency can get removed from your recording. Now it can only do that if it's got a clean recording of that noise. Now if all it's got is me speaking with the noise underneath me, it can't separate that. What it needs is just clean background noise. So best practice when you are recording a podcast, any kind of room that you're in, always make sure that you're wearing headphones when you're doing the recording. And before you start speaking to anybody or saying anything yourself, just record 10 seconds of the background noise of the room. Sometimes, and you might not realise it, there might be maybe an electrical hum coming from another device. Lights can be very bad for it, electric lights. There might be a fan running from a computer. There might be background noise from outside. You want to, if you need to later, you want to be able to take that out. So get a clean recording just of the noise of the room. So just stand quietly, take 10-15 seconds worth of noise, keep that there. And what it means is that when you do the noise reduction, it needs a noise profile, okay? So you would highlight just the clean noise. That would be your noise profile. And it means then that Audacity knows, okay, that's the bit that they want removed. And it means that hopefully your voice stays nice and clean, but you've taken out some of that background noise. It's not absolute. It varies. The quality of it will vary greatly. It might end up sounding a bit false, and you might decide actually you're better just keeping with what you have. There's no substitute for a nice clean recording. So make sure that people get in close to the microphone. Maybe they're wearing lavalier microphones, or you get in close when you're holding the microphone to them. Try and get a nice quiet room that doesn't have lights that buzz, that doesn't have electrical hum and fans running from computers and all that stuff. And again, practice it and play it back before you start recording for real. So that is simple, basic recording using Audacity, and then starting to edit it and cut, copy and paste and move things around.